key player in the European unicorn space, big investor names, and you're profitable, lo and behold. Talk to us about whether the profitability was always something you were driving towards.
So we've always known that payments is a scale business. So we've known that as we hit critical scale, we're going to get to the profitability part. And now we've just kind of gotten to the point where we're moving £1 billion a month, 1 million users using TransferWise, and we've hit profitability. But however, our goal remains keeping on investing for the future and making sure we can have the biggest impact and biggest user base 5-10 years down the road.
So do you ever think, when focusing on profitability, the pace of growth has to be reined back slightly because you are looking at your bottom line, or is that not really the case? They can be mutually beneficial.
I think they can be mutually beneficial. So for us, what's been important is to make sure that on a kind of country by country and corridor by corridor basis, we have strong unit economics always. So it's just been the case that when enough of the corridors have reached critical scale, that the company as a whole breaks even. But making sure that the fundamentals are sound, I think, is very important for any business.
Has there ever been any pressure from investors to become profitable? Is this something in the new era where we're seeing perhaps slightly less funding going into startups and slightly more wariness about sustainability of business model? Is that something that people have been calling for, or is this something that you've just driven yourself?
I do think there was a change in the market happened 1-2 years ago, where kind of the craze for growth at all cost changed a little bit. But I do think that companies that have proven that they have sound financials underlying the growth have always been able to raise money, and as such, I think the switch was pretty small, and maybe just some companies who were going way too crazy were kind of called for attention.
Do you think the likes of Uber and Airbnb are still going too crazy, or do you think when you've got that sort of scale, keep on raising?
It seems to me that there are actually two pretty different companies and pretty different profiles, and I think from what we've heard recently, Airbnb, I believe, is profitable or very close to it, versus with Uber we do hear about massive losses. So I think it's very hard to compare them, but I do think that they are doing well.
Is there a European mindset, do you think, that makes the investor base a little bit more cautious, the entrepreneur a little bit more cautious, and therefore looking for profitability that much faster? How do you think we here in London, particularly really escalating in fintech, but perhaps not dominating in some of the other areas, compare to that of Silicon Valley and some of the other tech hubs?
So I think it kind of goes back to the beginnings, and you think about kind of how many companies are being started in Europe. There is a difference in the risk appetite that I think you can feel in Europe. Less companies being started, so obviously you have less companies that get to scale and growth and maturity, and maybe as part of the different mindset, people will take less risk because failure isn't so tolerated, and so they might focus more on becoming profitable sooner.
I see. So therefore, this is something that is very much, interestingly, the data bears it out. European startups, about 60% are profitable. Perhaps that would be a much lesser extent if you look at the United States. Therefore, while you've got profitability, are you looking to raise more funding? Because you're certainly expanding. You've just launched in Asia, for example.
We're in a very good position regarding funding and financing, so we're really focused on how do we make sure that we keep on growing as quickly as possible. We grew more than 100% last year, and we're continuing to do that. So for us, the question is about how do we double down on small to medium business? How do we look at also expanding into other areas?
So talk to us about, therefore, where you're investing to sustain the growth, where you might be expanding into new areas of product. Is it all about hiring engineers, or are you on the marketing phase? Is it all about areas close to transfer of funds and foreign exchange, but expanding that product suite?
So we're a team of 700 people now, which is quite sizable, but we're continuing the hiring, and pretty much we're hiring across all fronts: engineers, marketeers, back office personnel. Kind of, it's all needed to keep on growing the business. Similarly, we're doing it in multiple geographies. A couple of weeks ago, we launched our APAC headquarters in Singapore. We're still busy hiring in the US and also in London and on mainland Europe. We launched a small to medium business offering last year, so that's something which we're very excited about and looking at growing that significantly. And there will be some more announcements coming later this year about adjacent areas that we're looking to expand to.
David, you're a fascinating man because Estonian, came here, of course, worked for Skype, brought your startup and bore it here in the United Kingdom. I look at your Twitter page and you have pinned a statement saying founded by immigrants, built by immigrants, used by immigrants. We are a case of Brexit is upon us in the United Kingdom. These sorts of geopolitical trends are happening throughout the world. How much has Brexit affected your business? How much do you think it would change your opinion of growing the business here in the UK? You're committed to the area?
So we're definitely committed to being in London. TransferWise is headquartered in London, and London today is the fintech capital of the world. However, when we talk about Brexit, we can't not talk about two things. So for us, the important things about Brexit are: one is access to talent. Every fast-growing company thrives on talent. So if it becomes harder for foreigners to move to London, to move to UK, that's definitely going to be hurting the ecosystem here, and as a result, these jobs will end up being created elsewhere instead. And the second important area is passporting. So Europe has a fantastic system today where one regulator gives you access to 500 million consumers.
Unlike the US?
Unlike the US, where it's state by state. So, and that passporting is unlikely to survive, and we don't know yet, but as pure business contingency, we need to think about how do we keep on serving our customers over on the European side.